You know, I can honestly sit here and say that I've avoided celebrity most of my life as much as I possibly can, you know. I have no desire to be a celebrity, never did.
He's very simple, Tom. You know, he's really is simple. He's not any of the showbiz kind of stuff.
When you've known somebody that long, he's just Tommy, the same guy that I've seen around since I was 11 or 12, except he turned out to be this fantastic songwriter.
He's made a lot of creative decisions for the band that took a lot of guts, and he's always stood by what he knew was right.
I'd rather just be a working musician, songwriter, and, you know, humble as it sounds, it really is true.
I think Tom, you know, is so distinctive, his voice anyway. He doesn't even have to try, you know. He has Tom Petty's voice, which is rather lucky, being as he's Tom Petty.
I think he's a very astute comedian, basically.
Your parents always said, well, it's good to be in a band and all that, but you should go to school so you'll have something to fall back on. And our response was, yes, but we're not going to fall back. So we became musicians, for lack of a better word. In 1970, I joined my third band, and it was called Mudcrutch. We were from Gainesville, Florida, and we became very popular around that area. And in the band, I met Mike Campbell and Ben Montench, and after a few years, we decided to go to LA and look for a record contract. Now, to our extreme surprise, we got several offers in the first couple of days, but the guy that we really trusted the most was this fellow named Denny Cordell.
Tom was the singer, Tom was the writer, and he was a really good player, and he was the front man. But there were an awful lot of people that looked like John Travolta, and that whole thing was, you know, and he was, you know, a scruffy throwback to a previous decade, really.
Unfortunately, the band broke up just as we released our first single, but it was a good thing in the long run because it led to the formation of the Heartbreakers. We didn't really like to be told what to do from our first album on. We were always allowed a lot of independence, which I thank Denny Cordell for. We were probably so bad that he just left us there for 6 weeks at a time, and then he'd come check on us. But in the meantime, we figured out a lot of ways to make different sounds, and we still do that.
I think what he really wanted to do was to really make, you know, sort of great rock and roll records. And as we went along, he learnt the art of recording. At the same time, the band changed around until it became the really great band it became.
I felt comfortable with him because I dug his records that he'd done, like Whiter Shade of Pale and the Joe Cocker stuff, and even the first Moody Blues record he did, Go Now. And he'd just done so many good records, and he was a man of taste, a man of quality, and that meant more to me than signing with a huge corporation or anything. Everybody else just seemed like lawyers to me. And here was a man that was an artist.
My memory of making the first couple records was insane. We were actually, I think, out of our minds, but really going for it, you know. We really tried hard.
Towards that, and sort of rock and roll seemed to be dying out. And then completely out of the blue, here he came, a sort of 24-karat rocker.
You know, the first 3 or 4 years, every gig was the most important gig of our life. So we had to be at our best, but literally every gig was kind of the most, you know, you got to be good tonight.
It's the big time. It's not the big time. I remember that feeling like, we got it, we don't got it, we got it, we don't got it. But that's really early. And then then the first rung of it, I just remember being really busy and super excited.
At the time that we started out, we really didn't know what we were doing. And I think England's always been a little more open to people who pretty obviously didn't have a clue.
Our first album was released in December of 1976, and we were informed that the single Anything That's Rock and Roll had become a hit in England. So they flew us over there, and before we knew it,
people were asking us questions, and we were in magazines, and we were, you know, on the Top of the Pops television show. You know, it was high adventure, and we just thought, crazy, man. We returned to America after all this attention in England, and there we were taking out the trash again. And suddenly, though, we got these gigs at the Whiskey A Go-Go, and crowds started to come, and within a few months, America was acting the same way England had.